Hi children, good morning. This is our last module. Let us continue. Making a socialist society. During the Civil War, the Bolsheviks kept industries and banks nationalized. They permitted the peasants to cultivate the land that had been socialized. Bolsheviks used confiscated land to demonstrate what collective work could be. A process of centralized planning was introduced. Officials assessed how the economy could work and set a target for a 5-year period. On this basis, they made 5-year plans. The government fixed all prices to promote industrial growth during the first two plans. Centralized planning led to economic growth. Industrial production increased. New factory cities came into being. In every nook and corner, we can see the development. However, rapid construction led to poor working conditions. In the city of Magnitogorsk, the construction of a steel plant was achieved in 3 years. Workers lived hard lives and the result was 550 stoppages of work in the first year alone. In living quarters, in the winter time, at 40 degrees below, people had to climb down from the fourth floor and dash across the streets in order to go to the toilets. An extended schooling system developed, and arrangements were made for factory workers and peasants to enter universities. Creches were established in factories for the children of women workers. Cheaper public health care was provided. Model living quarters were set for workers. The effect of all this was uneven, though, since government resources were limited. The period of the early planned economy was linked to the disasters of the collectivization of agriculture. By 1927 and 28, the towns in Soviet Russia were facing an acute problem of grain supplies. The government fixed prices at which grain must be sold, but the peasants refused to sell their grain to government buyers at these prices. Stalin, who headed the party after the death of Lenin, introduced firm emergency measures. He believed that rich peasants and traders in the countryside were holding stocks in the hope of higher prices. Speculation had to be stopped and supplies confiscated. In 1928, party members toured the grain producing areas, supervising enforced grain collection. As shortages continued, the decision was taken to collectivize farms. It was argued that grain shortages were partly due to the small size of holdings. After 1917, land had been given over to peasants. These small-sized peasants' farms could not be modernized. To develop modern farms and run them along industrial lines with the machinery, it was necessary to eliminate gulags, take away land from peasants, and establish state-controlled large farms. What followed was Stalin collectivization program. From 1929, the party forced all peasants to cultivate in collective farms. The bulk of land and implements were transferred to the ownership of collective farms. Peasants worked on the land. Between 1929 and 1931, the number of cattle fell by one-third. Stalin's government allowed some independent cultivation, but treated such cultivators unsympathetically. In spite of collectivization, production did not increase immediately. In fact, the bad harvest of 1930 and 33 led to one of the most devastating famines in Soviet history, when over 4 million